episode, we are going to learn how Poland tried to protect its people from the nuclear war. So let's start from a quick history lesson. We all know, after World War II, Poland, as well as some other countries, were behind the so-called Iron Curtain under the control of the USSR. And as we know, USSR and USA didn't really go along together. They weren't bestest of friends. So the threat of nuclear war was pretty much high the most time. As you know, USA had the fallout shelters and other programs where citizens built themselves some bunkers, like you'd seen. We don't hear quite as often about what happened behind the Iron Curtain on the eastern side than on the west, because we have all the Fallout game series, we have all the different post-apocalyptic films depicting what would happen in Cold War, but over here there is nothing about our side, so I will explain it. So in Poland, basically after World War II in 1951 to life came our today's organization that I will explain, TOPL. TOPL it's short for Terenowa Obrona Przeciwlotnicza, which translated gives us Terrorian Anti-Aircraft Defense. The main task, as the name says, is to protect people from air attacks. The way that it protected is via three things. First, they announced the official guidelines for constructing communal housing settlements, like districts. We call them blokowisko, basically block, living block next to next living block. This is the district, somewhat called. So basically, for example, housing accommodation, I don't know how to call it, basically need to have sloped roofs, so the slopeness needs to be to the outside. I will show it on the photo. The sloped roofs means that the bomb, usually for example a bomb that could ignite or explode with fire, could slide down and don't cause damage to the house. Also, every driveway inside the housing complex had to be wide enough to be blocked by either a tank or a truck. Also, the entrances to the houses need to be from the inside of the apartment complex. Also, the most important thing was that every housing had to have a bunker. The bunkers were built by the government, so they weren't like a private thing. Everyone living in that building would know that there is a bunker inside the building, inside the basement of it. The bunkers built were usually just anti-aircraft. Sometimes if the bunker door, the big metal door, had a rubber seal, and behind that door was another door with another rubber seal, that means the bunker would be B or C type, so anti-biological and anti-chemical weapons. The bunkers itself weren't really comfy. They basically had some benches, some basic supplies. The water was provided via deep wells that take the water from deep ground, that the water isn't polluted from all the weapons that would be used, so it's safe to drink. The air would be provided via intakes located around the complex. The intakes also serve as a means of emergency escape. The air is filtrated via big filtration units that were either operated by power from the grid or by hands via two cranks. Usually two people would crank it and filter it. Most of the times the toilet in the bunker would be a squatting toilet. We call it Lenin's feet, because the toilet itself uses a very low water. Also, in the government buildings like schools, city centers, city town halls, offices, the bunkers were usually the command bunkers. So the TOPL command would sit there and coordinate the helping out people after the bombs drop. On the complex there would be a building additional add-on that is called the wieżowy punkt obserwacyjny, translated as high tower observation point, that would detect if something is flying towards the complex, and the Howard observation point would have a phone line connected to the bunker, so it would message the bunker. Now some movies depicting how the TOPL would react after the attack.
W wypadku napadu atomowego na miasto, pierwsze do akcji wchodzą patrole dozymetryczne. Rejon wokół miejsca eksplozji jest skażony substancjami promieniotwórczymi. Patrole dozymetryczne wykrywają szkodliwe promieniowanie i oznaczają tereny skażone. Tymczasem z pobliskich rejonów wyczekiwania wyruszyły już na pomoc miastu jednostki służb TOPL. Wkrótce do akcji przystępują jednostki służby odkażania i dezaktywacji. Wybuch jądrowy niesie z sobą pożary przestrzenne i burze ogniowe. Walczy z nimi służba przeciwpożarowa TOPL. Jednostki służby ratownictwa technicznego TOPL, wyposażone w ciężki sprzęt ratowniczy, oczyszczają drogę z gruzów. Wydobywają ludzi z zasypanych piwnic, zburzonych budynków i ukryć. Młoty pneumatyczne przebijają drogę uwięzionym w ruinach. Pierwsi wychodzą ranni, którym natychmiast śpieszą z pomocą jednostki służby medyczno-sanitarnej TOPL. Atak jądrowy na miasto, nawet mimo sprawnej obrony przeciwatomowej, pociąga za sobą wiele ofiar. Do punktów sanitarnych napływa coraz więcej rannych. Od szybkiej pomocy i sprawności jednostek służby medyczno-sanitarnej zależy teraz ich życie. Rannych przyjmują polowe szpitale, rozmieszczone poza strefą porażenia atomowego. Dopiero tu dokonuje się poważniejszych zabiegów medycznych i operacji.
So after 1964, TOPL become powszechna samoobrona, translated as universal self-defense. People basically remember this mostly because they had a school subject which was called przysposobienie obronne, PO for short. It's translated as defense training. Basically, this was a subject in school where you had your own with its own books, own workbooks. Basically, they teach you how to survive, how to, for example, use some equipment, like which I will show later, some Geiger counters and field telephones. Also, they learn you some basic military knowledge. For example, how to follow in a group, how to shoot, even how to make maps. Basically, everything that would be useful for you in army.
Už vieme zvojenčinný základ, rota, priamo hľad. Si príme dokonalý súlad, v jednom šíku stáť. Deň zo dňa lepší a hlavne smelší, poznáme bojových cvičení slast. Dnes vieme držať krok a šliapať, zajtra brániť vlast. Vojak nikdy nemá to ľahké, najmä prvých 700 dní. Včera posky rozdával sladké, dnes ho čaká výcvik pechotný. Krátke spávanie, rýchle vstávanie, hrmených 100 striel. Stráže, útoky, nástup, prískoky a vždy triafať cieľ. Boja preto cvičí dnes ťažko, preto z čela padá mu znoj, aby mohol v pravý čas ľahko zvíťaziť, keď príde boj. Zvíťaziť, keď príde boj. Rýchle vstávanie, hrmených 100 striel. Stráže, útoky, nástup, prískoky a vždy triafať cieľ. Vojak preto cvičí dnes ťažko, preto z čela padá mu znoj, aby mohol v pravý čas ľahko zvíťaziť, keď príde boj. Zvíťaziť, keď príde boj.
The subject itself still exists. It's called Edukacja do bezpieczeństwa, so education for safety. Of course, it's a bit modified. It doesn't have all this war stuff. Mainly doesn't have the shootings, the maps, the telephones. All this basically it's just first aid and some basic information about military and some basic information about attacks and other things. So later, after the powszechna samoobrona, it became obrona cywilna, civil defense, and after 1992, so after the fall, it became zarządzanie kryzysowe, crisis management. Now I will show you some equipment, mainly the field telephones and Geiger counters that were used by the defense force. Right, so here is the RS-70 radiation indicator used by the Polish military and civilian defense force. It is a radiation indicator, not a radiation meter, because it could only indicate depending on the setting. So before we go into how to use it, some information. So it was made in the 70s. This one is made in 1976, 75, sorry. It uses 4 diesel batteries hidden there, 2 here and 2 here. I can unscrew this. You basically put those in there, screw this in.
Ich sąsiad, odpowiednio przeszkolony i wyposażony w aparaturę pomiarową, pomoże im w przypadku zagrożenia. Jego obowiązkiem jest dbać o to, aby wszyscy wokół zostali w porę ostrzeżeni i zawiadomieni o niebezpieczeństwie. Sygnalizator promieniowania musi być sprawdzony i zawsze gotowy do działania, bo przecież może zdarzyć się tak.
Or you can use a 6-volt power supply connected via two banana plugs here. The voltage ranges from 3.6 to 6.5 volts. Also, on the battery, those batteries could also have only 0.9 volts on each one, and this thing will still work, of course, with less sound and less indication of the light. Apart from that, it could run on those batteries for about 200 hours. But when indicating via sound, it can only run about 50 to 80 hours. It can survive vibrations up to 4G. The G-force generally, so like when in the plane to 15G. In its original box that I don't have, it would survive up to 120 Gs. And it can survive a drop from 0.7 meters, but I won't test it, and the manufacturer don't specify from what surface. I don't think that dropping it on a hard concrete would survive, but it has a backlight, very sturdy, almost like a weapon cover. Next. We go to the yes, there are many they were many made, and there are even some examples that have calibration notices in the box from 2002, still valid to 2007. So they made basically a lot of them, and they keep on working. The short instruction is on the back. I will explain it later. Also, the cover itself is dust proof, waterproof, basically everything proof. Here we have the speaker, the light, the light or sound indication setting, and the general settings. Next is the ranges that it operates on. So basically, when you set it to like this, it means that we have 0.5. That means that it's 0.5 rengens per hour. So when the radiation is exactly the same, like 0.5 or higher, it will start to indicate.
Buty, tatusiu, buty!
Co buczy? Sygnalizator?
Tak!
Then we have 5 rengens per hour and 30 rengens per hour. The small settings converted to the sieverts, it's around 5 millisieverts per hour, and generally the device itself is usually known for very low reactability, if I say like that. Basically, you could get some nasty damage from radiation before it started to indicate that there's something wrong. So next we have, of course, the instruction. So we have those settings. We have W for wyłączony, so off, K for controlacz, so control or testing, 0, 5, 0, 5 and 30. And the light, N light, that means it's working. So reading the back says that to test this equipment, we need to change the knob to the position K and see if the light N is blinking and if the sound and light signal is present. If it's not present, no sound present, change batteries, no light present, change the light bulb, no light N and no sound or light, bad batteries or broken meter indicator, sorry. Next we have checking for radiation. So in the O5 position, in O5 no danger. That's what it's called. No, nie ma zagrożenia, no danger. There is signalization in O5, danger, hide. There's signalization in O5 and 5, danger, strong. There's signalization in O5, 5 and 30, very strong, danger. Also, after using it, turn off the equipment using the V position. So now we're gonna test it. It draws around 17 milliamps, so I'm gonna use this thing, and it gets loud pretty much. This is the 0, this is the plus. So we have set it to light. It the N lights, and if we set it to 0.5, it stays on. It stays on. The light blinks in the control position, so it would indicate. Also, I can test this because I don't have a radiation source, but the speed of the blinking and the speed of the beeping, and that I will show later, changes from when you change the settings. So it will beep and blink faster on the 30 than on the 05. So now the sound, and it gets pretty loud, about 93 decibels. I forgot to change something. Now, I didn't set the voltage right. Okay. Now this is the 6 volts. So the designed for it. It was loud. So also it has a carrying strap. You would usually wear it like this. So next thing that would be used is this field phone. Ignore this wire, I will explain it later. So as you can see, it's a TAJ43MR. This one is the newer version. I have even the older one, the more simpler version. This one is the AP48, and about the AP48, I have this workbook for the przysposobienie obronne. You can see there's the diagram as an exercise where you need to name all the parts. AP48. So yeah. So those phones are based on a World War II design. They can talk with each other, but something is wrong with this one. I think it's probably the handset, because as you can see the wire is there and there broken, and there is no button. I will explain later how they generally work. But both of them have this wiring diagram, the very simple one. This one is more advanced. It's even not a paper, it's basically a metal plate with paint. This one doesn't have, it should have somewhere here a phonetic alphabet. This one has the Polish phonetic alphabet. Okay, so they are both made of bakelite. This one was made in 1967, sorry, in the October. So they both are MB style phones. So the battery is, in Polish we say miejscowej battery. So the battery usually sits in in both of the phones. Here you would put it, and we'll show a photo how the phone battery looks like. It provides 1.5 volts of power for the phone to talk with each other, and they are still made, so I guess when I get some I would be able to test them properly, but I will put this one away because it's the more simple model. And with this I even have this crank that it's stuck there. You cannot remove it, should have been removed, and I would check this one, but I won't break this crank by removing it. So here we have the instruction for checking if it's okay. Just give you, also it has this pretty beautiful wiring diagram here with all the symbols explained, and also everything has value here. Even the one coil has its value in henries, 4 henries DW. And there you have how to connect it to the line. I will explain later. And so first, to check the phone, if I had a battery, I would put it here, take this and connected it. I would blow here and I will hear sound coming here. This is how you check the battery. The second thing to check is the bell, and it tells you to connect L1 and L2 together. So this is the wire I used, and basically use the crank and press this button, and it should sound the bell like this. Also, this one has a telegraph key here. You can connect to these two banana plugs and use it as a telegraph. Also, so connecting those two together, according to the schematic, would be that to the Z connector here, you would connect the ground, and one line 2, second line 2, and the same on this one. Or you could say you could use one cable and connect L2, for example, to Z, and it would also work. Usually they require a connection box. We call it łącznica telefoniczna. Let me see if I have the photo in this workbook. There should be one. Yeah, so it would look like this. You will have many connections, and the flaps on it would pop out when you would use the crank. So that's why you would indicate how that you wanted to call the other number. Of course, they're used in the military, so usually to other unit. I also have to get it. Yes, I also have this thing. This is a head earphone. You would put it on your head, basically connect this here, and listen to your conversations using this on your head. This one cannot take it. Something is different with this plug. I wouldn't want to unplug it right now, so I will need to restore this, fix this. This one works perfectly. I even could use it for the normal phones, so CB, central battery phones. They work. Basically, the other phone wouldn't help with the tag, but you can tag using this to that normal phone. So now you know what we did to protect our country.